today. So the headlines will dictate whether you get any of this beautiful Canadian wine or gin. As for me, my staff has told me I'm not allowed to drink any of this until after question period. I mean, they are no fun at all. But what is fun is free trade between our Canadian provinces. Let me quote to you Section 121 of the British North American Act, our founding constitutional document. It says, all articles of growth, produce, manufacture of any one of the provinces shall, from and after the Union, be admitted free into each of the other provinces. Again, free into each of the other provinces. That was the dream of our founding fathers, a gigantic free enterprise economy where Canadian consumers could buy from Canadian businesses who hire Canadian workers. The free and voluntary exchange of work for wages, product for payment, and investment for interest was supposed to go across these borders between Quebec and Ontario, from east to west, north to south. Canadians were meant to have the freedom to trade across the land because our founding fathers understood that if we were going to be able to defend our sovereignty against a growing American power, it would mean that we would have to do commerce with each other. But ironically, today, there are more barriers to trading between Canadian provinces than there are trading with the United States or other countries. The effective tariff rate on Canadian interprovincial trade is actually higher than the tariffs that exist between Canada and the United States of America. And so we continue to become more and more dependent on the United States and pay higher and higher prices for products that we make right here at home. Conservatives have as our mission to make Canada affordable at home, safe at home, and strong at home so that we can be unbreakable abroad. After 11 years of Liberal government, we are the opposite of that. Canada is more dangerous, more expensive, and more dependent than ever before. The cost of housing is the worst in the G7. We have the highest household debt in the G7. And of course, we have 2.2 million more people, 2.2 million people lined up at food banks across this country because food prices are too high for our people. One of the reasons is because our governments block us from buying and selling freely. Now, Mark Carney promised that after 10 years of Liberals, he was going to be different, but it was all an illusion. He promised the fastest growing economy in the G7. He gave us the only shrinking economy in the G7. He promised affordable food. Food prices are rising twice as fast today as when he took office, and we have the worst food price inflation in the G7, proving it's not global factors. If it were, then we would not have the worst. Those other countries have food inflation, issues with global economy as well. He promised to double home building. His own housing agency says home building is dropping. He promised to build, baby, build. And yet, a year after a Parliament granted him special powers to approve projects, he has not used those powers even once, not for one project. He has not approved a single new pipeline or removed a single Trudeau-era anti-development law. He's bringing in new fuel taxes, industrial carbon taxes, and higher prices at the pump that drive Canadian jobs out and Canadian prices up. And most of all, he promised free trade between the provinces by July of last year. Here we are in 2026, almost a year after the Canada Day promise came and went. And what do we have? More barriers, more blockages on interprovincial trade, including federal barriers. It is currently against the law for Canada Post to deliver Canadian alcohol to Canadian consumers in 6 of 10 provinces. That is a federal law that Mark Carney refuses so far to change. Ironically, Canada Post will deliver you American alcohol, but they won't deliver you Canadian alcohol in 6 of 10 provinces. It is possible that some of these liquors, wines, and beers can make it onto LCBO or other provincial liquor store shelves. However, it's very hard to do so, and it requires a small army of lobbyists, lawyers, consultants, sales representatives to fight with these provincial bureaucracies in order to do it. That means that the big multinationals get the shelf space, and the small upstarts who provide dynamic, new products at better prices with new flavors have a harder time breaking into the market. Let us open up the free market so that Canadian entrepreneurs can sell the best wines, spirits, and beers to other Canadians. Right, and that is why I'm very pleased to introduce Dan Elbis, who has been Canada's single biggest champion of free trade between free people in this free country of ours, whose mission is to make Canada affordable at home, safe at home, and strong at home, so that we can be unbreakable abroad. I think all of us would drink to that.
Great. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Pierre. Producers in my riding want the opportunity to be able to sell right across this great country. And right now, only 4 out of 10 provinces allow for that: BC, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Nova Scotia. Now, there's a great opportunity for these small producers. They often can't produce enough to be able to sell to a large liquor monopoly like the LCBO. But again, what they can't sell at their farm gate, they could leverage technology. We all know how easy it is to order something over using a smartphone, or even picking up the phone and calling someone. But you wouldn't believe how many people, when they go to places like Mission Hill or Lightning Rock Winery in Summerland, and ask to see if they could send some of the product home to their loved ones because they've fallen in love with a particular vintage. And you know what? It breaks the heart of people like Ron Kubek when he says, "I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to ship to places like Ontario or Quebec." So Bill C-262 is the answer to this. I've been pushing to try and get rid of these trade barriers for a long time, gotten 4 provinces. But the difference between this piece of legislation that was tabled yesterday and previous iterations is that, number one, this would allow Canada Post and other designated trusted carriers to be able to send anywhere with national consistent application from one province to another, full stop. This means these small producers will get a chance to compete for your business. This means that your loved ones, when they go to an artisan distillery or a craft brewery or a small family winery, that they can send some of that wonderful product back home. And at a time where we say we should be focusing on things that we can control, well, Parliament, this is something that is under our control. The Canada Post Act is a federal piece of law, and we can get behind that. We also say that we need to be our own best customers. This is a valid way to do that. So Conservatives are bringing to the table solutions to our current issues. Again, as Pierre said, producers want to produce more, they want to hire more, they want to sell more, and obviously consumers want to see more than just what's on available at their local liquor monopoly store. So this is a real win-win for everyone, and we invite the government to steal this idea like they've done with many others, particularly your ideas, Pierre, on axing the carbon tax. And
they'd implement them.
Yes, yes.
Actually follow
well,
through.
this is where we need to push them to follow through completely. So if you believe that we should have free trade of Canadian beer, wine, and spirits in this great country, then Bill C-262 is the solution. And I'm looking forward to trying to press the different ministers to support this great Canadian project. And I'm just very thankful that I have a leader like Pierre Poilievre, who has been pushing to break down trade barriers, who wants to get rid of red tape, who wants to support Canadian workers so that they can bring home powerful paychecks, and at the same time see these trade barriers once and for all go down, so we have a stronger, more united Canada. Thank you, Pierre.
Way to go.
Thank you. We will now take questions from the media. Please identify yourself and your outlet.
Hi. Sorry. Mike. The lineup, Dave.
Come on over. Come over. We'll get everybody in.
Okay, sorry. Mr. Poilievre, Michael Couture with CTV News. Your party has supported the actions by the U.S. and Israel to provoke a regime change in Iran. I wanted to know whether or not you thought what has happened so far is a true regime change, and do you change that support based on who has taken over in Iran right now?
So I supported the Prime Minister's original support of actions to strike the Iranian terrorist regime that has murdered at least dozens of Canadian citizens and continues to support terrorism in Canada. We want the Iranian people to secure a democracy where they are elected, where there's peace, and where terrorism is defeated. That will make all of us safer and more secure here in Canada and abroad. Thank you.
So as a follow-up then, do you consider who has taken over in Iran as somebody who will make it safer for Iranians, not only there but here in Canada?
Who are you referring to right now? You're talking about the Sun?
The Sun, yeah.
No, this is a terrorist. This is a terrorist regime that, according to CSIS, the RCMP, and media outlets like Global News, has agents who are active, and CTV are actively spreading terror and danger in our country. They have killed 55 of our citizens, 30 of our permanent residents. They have sponsored terror on the ground. They've intimidated our people. I personally have met with Canadians of Persian descent who say that they are being surveilled and intimidated by these officials. Their agents are present in our country because of failed liberal border policies. And so what we need to do is expel regime thugs from Canada, kick the terrorists out of our country to keep our people safe. We stand with the Iranian people for democracy. We stand against the Iranian theocratic dictatorship that has attacked our country. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question.
Bonjour, Christian Noël de Radio-Canada. Je veux juste être sûr que j'ai bien compris. Comme un changement de régime en Iran ne semble plus être la raison principale des frappes israélo-américaines en Iran, est-ce que vous continuez de supporter à 100% ces frappes et est-ce que certaines règles internationales devraient être respectées?
Les règles internationales qui empêchent l'Iran de s'ingérer dans nos politiques et d'attaquer les Canadiens. C'est un régime qui a tué 55 citoyens canadiens avec un missile qui a frappé un avion passager civil. C'est un régime terroriste qui continue d'harceler les Canadiens et de provoquer des attaques terroristes sur le sol canadien. Toutes les actions de ce régime violent la loi internationale et c'est pour ça que j'ai appuyé les propos de M. Carney au début, qu'il fallait empêcher ce régime. Je suis toujours contre le terrorisme.
Je remarque que vous n'avez pas nécessairement dit que vous appuyez maintenant à 100% les frappes qu'Israël et les États-Unis font contre l'Iran. Si vous voulez, dans ma prochaine question, prendre le temps pour répondre à cette question.
Il faut empêcher les régimes terroristes et le régime qui continue de présenter une vraie menace aux Canadiens, une menace qui s'est manifestée à plusieurs reprises dans des meurtres des Canadiens. Et j'espère que le régime va tomber et que le peuple iranien prenne contrôle en instaurant une démocratie paisible dans ce pays. Merci beaucoup.
Merci d'avoir terminé la première question. Maintenant,
Oui.
if I could have my follow-up.
C'est la troisième question, mon cher
Non,
ami.
mais vous avez interrompu ma deuxième question.
Il y a une ligne d'attente.
Je me permets de la terminer. Ma deuxième question était la suivante. Est-ce que vous appuieriez l'envoi de troupes canadiennes au Moyen-Orient ou en Iran pour jouer un rôle offensif?
Il n'y a aucune proposition pour ça. Donc, je ne vais pas appuyer une proposition que je n'ai même pas vue. Donc, si M. Carney a reçu une telle proposition, il devrait partager ça avec les Canadiens. Évidemment, je ne vais jamais me prononcer en faveur d'envoyer des troupes sans une proposition, et j'ai rien vu.
Can you say that in English for me, please, sir?
Sorry.
Can you say that in English for me, the question you just asked in French?
So we're not aware of any proposal to send Canadian troops, so we're not able to support a proposal we haven't seen. Thank you.
Sir, what would a Liberal majority government mean for your leadership?
Well, I can tell you what it would mean for Canadians. It would mean higher food prices, higher taxes, a ballooning deficit, which Mr. Carney has already doubled. It would mean that he could continue to block resource projects and give us the only shrinking economy in the G7. It would mean that we Canadians would pay more to get less, and that there would be more liberal power with even less accountability. Thank you.
last night in Toronto. Police there say there was gunfire on that space. What do you make of that, and what's your reaction?
Thank you very much. Conservatives condemn unequivocally the gun attack on the American consulate. This is unacceptable. It is unacceptable to use political violence of any kind, and we're pleased that thus far there are no reports of anyone being injured, but I'm increasingly concerned with how dangerous Canada has become after 10 years of Liberal government. Look, there was a war in Iraq, there were wars in Syria, in Lebanon, across the Middle East for decades. Those wars never spilled over onto our streets, never. We had protests, we had debate, we did not have violence. But 10 years of Liberal immigration, weak Liberal borders, catch and release Liberal crime policies, and divisive Liberal governance has led to that violence spilling onto our streets. And we now have synagogues that are being shot. We have Jewish places of worship and community centers firebombed, children's schools having bullets fly through the window in the middle of the night. This is not the Canada that we knew and the Canada that we want. We want a country that is safe and secure, and we need the government to crack down on this political violence, to identify anyone visiting this country that is not a citizen or a permanent resident who's engaging in it, and immediately have them referred for charges, for criminal penalty, and ultimately deportation. And we need to bring security at our borders, so never again do we allow terrorists and terror agents like members of the IRGC to bring their hatred and their violence to our streets. Les conservateurs condamnent sans équivoque, les conservateurs condamnent la violence faite au consulat américain. C'est inacceptable. La violence politique n'est pas permise ici au Canada. Je m'inquiète que la violence politique devienne de plus en plus normale au Canada. Il y a toujours eu des guerres en Moyen-Orient, mais ces guerres ne causaient pas de violence sur le terre canadien avant les 10 dernières années des libéraux. Mais à cause d'une politique libérale sur l'immigration, la loi et l'ordre et la malgestion de nos agents sécuritaires, maintenant on voit des attaques terroristes contre des synagogues, des organismes juifs et maintenant le consulat américain. C'est inacceptable. Il faut qu'on serre la vis contre les terroristes, qu'on fait porte des accusations criminelles pour les mettre en prison. Il faut expulser des gens qui visitent ici au Canada qui ne sont pas nos citoyens, mais qui participent dans le terrorisme au Canada. Il faut que le Canada soit sécuritaire chez nous et maître chez nous.
Thank you. Next question.
Good morning, Mr. Polyev. Stephanie Taylor of the National Post. Countries, including Canada, are looking at what Australia has done in terms of banning social media for children of a certain age. I want to know your position. Do you think Canadian youth should be able to have access to social media in this country?
Thank you for your question. We're taking a careful look at it right now as a father whose kids are just getting to that age where they are starting to have more and more online access. I worry about the content that they will interact with. We're working hard to limit screen time and to counter the addictive powers of online content that we see even with our little 4-year-old. So it's something that our caucus is carefully studying right now, and as we get the proper information, we'll be taking the right position. I'm sorry we don't have a direct answer right now, but we're trying to study to get the right answer.
We have time for one final question.
I think we could take them all now. You could take all the questions, I think, right?
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Could you take 2 more questions? Is that
Sure.
fine? Cool, great. The Musqueam Rights Recognition Agreement, I think some of your MPs, including maybe Mr. Albus, have been pretty outspoken against this. I'm trying to understand your position on this because the government and the First Nation have both said that this is a rights recognition agreement that doesn't have anything to do with private property. So what's the issue?
So the Conservatives believe in private property rights. We are determined to protect property of legitimate Canadians who bought their homes under good faith and expected that their homes would be secure. And we think the Liberals failed to make the proper arguments before the court several years ago when the federal Attorney General decided to remove arguments that specifically defended the importance of fee simple property above all other claims. And in making that decision, they didn't defend property owners, and now a lot of British Columbians are concerned that their title might be in jeopardy. And it's up to the government now to show that they are taking every step to ensure private property is protected, that people's homes will always be theirs, and not only that their homes will be theirs, but they will be able to sell and buy homes into the future without any risk to the title of legitimate owners. Thank you.
CBC and SLC have signed an agreement with Amazon Prime to be broadcasting Newsnet and RDE. I'm curious if you think that fits within the public broadcaster's mandate and what your thoughts are.
I haven't had a chance to study that, so I don't have a response right now. Thank you so much.
That's all the time we have for questions.
Let
One
David
last
come
question.
in. Come on, David.
Thank you very much for taking our questions, honest to God. And I do have a question about today's announcement, and I wouldn't mind hearing from Dan as well.
Sure.
It sounds like it's a great idea to have the federal government take the lead on this Canada Post regulation, but really, let me put it to you, your beef is with Doug Ford and Francois Legault and other premiers who are preventing their monopolies from accepting BC wine. Can you give me your thoughts about that?
I'll just quickly say this. It was Mark Carney who said he was going to give us pan-Canadian free trade. He didn't put an asterisk next to that and claim that he wouldn't be able to do anything because the provinces would get in his way. He said he would be a strong national leader that would bring truly free trade. His promise was to have one national economy, not 13. That was all an illusion. We have very little progress on interprovincial free trade in practice, despite the many meaningless MOUs that he has signed and announcements that he has made. In this case, the obstacle is not the provinces. It's right in the Canada Post law. And Mr. Carney has had an entire year to change that law. He has not done it. It is not, there is no premier stopping Canada Post from delivering this alcohol. It is the federal law under this federal Liberal government. We propose to change that law to move towards free trades, free markets for free people in a free country.
I would just point out that this is a long-standing issue. I remember Kathleen Wynne and Doug Ford having the same position despite efforts of producers right across the country. And really, if you look at it, in 2012 we made a minor change with C311 that allowed for wine. And in 2014, the Harper government amended their Budget Implementation Act to include beer and wine, but it was an optional program. So we saw 4 out of 10. Now, if this was in baseball, batting 400 is pretty good. But for Canadian unity, for our economy, and for us to come together, I'm batting for 1,000. So this particular change in C262, it's important to my riding, it's important to my residents, but it's also important to this country and to our collective prosperity. So this is where the federal law did exist and should exist to give a national application that we're all in this together. Free the beer.
Juste en français, c'est M. Carney qui avait promis d'avoir un libre-échange entre les provinces, d'avoir une économie au lieu de 13. Il n'a pas livré. C'était une illusion. dans ce cas d'alcool, ce n'est pas les premiers ministres provinciaux qui sont l'obstacle, c'est la loi fédérale. Une loi fédérale qui s'applique à une agence fédérale Post-Canada. Donc, après un an, M. Carney n'a pas livré, nous livrons avec un projet de loi qui permettrait aux Canadiens d'avoir, de commander de l'alcool des autres provinces et de le recevoir sans frais pour leurs usages, pour supporter les emplois et des petites et moyennes entreprises. C'est comme ça que nous agissons pour devenir plus abordable chez nous et maître chez nous. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. This
All right.
concludes today's press conference.
Thank you. On that subject? Okay.